So back with you. So we know that people avoid risk. People are risk averse. So how do people manage it? If we're trying to eliminate or avoid risk, what techniques can they use? We're again back on chapter 27. So how do people manage risk if they're trying to avoid it? One common way is with insurance. Now, you may have a little bit of experience with insurance through your car. When you got your driver's license or when you bought your first car, you're required by New York state law to take out insurance as part of the registration process. How does it work? Well, suppose someone is facing some sort of risk. Again, keeping it with cars, the risk that you'll cause some sort of property damage or hurt someone when you're driving. That might cost you, among other things, some money. If you crash into me, I might sue you. You might have to pay for the cost of fixing my car or whatever medical expenses I have. So you have a risk. How do you eliminate or avoid that risk? You might try to transfer that risk to another party, typically an insurance company. What happens there is you pay the insurance company, Geico, for example, a fee, and in return, Geico will agree to assume or accept part of the risk that you create when you go out and drive. Specifically, what that means is they'll agree to compensate the injured person, me if you smash into my car, me if you run me over. You agree to compensate the injured person if a loss occurs. So, small fee, transferring risk to an insurance company, which then in turn agrees to compensate, stand in your shoes really, compensate the injured person that you hurt when you drive recklessly. All right. This changes people's behavior as we will see in the next set of slides. Having insurance may make you behave differently, and we'll explore this not in this video, but in the next video. But it does, we can sort of give a little preview here, right? So if you drive a car, back to the car insurance issue, right? If you drive a car, you might get in an accident and cause damage to yourself or to others. You can, you have a couple of things you can do. You don't have to get insurance. You do in New York, but some states don't require insurance. So if you don't buy it, you're assuming all the risk yourself. So you accept the risk of an accident. If you get in an accident, you have to pay out of your own pocket the full cost of the damages that you created. My medical expenses, the cost of fixing my car, the cost of fixing your own car, right? You pay all of the cost. By transferring it to the insurance company, they pay that for you. Why is it good? Why does that help? Why do we have insurance? Because insurance allows risks to be pooled. The risk of me driving and causing an accident, the risk of you driving and causing an accident, all of those risks are together in one big pot. And so the insurance company assumes that risk and it makes risk averse people better off by spreading the risk among all those people. Think about a house, right? If you own a house and your house burns down, you have to pay all of the cost of the house of replacing it, building it again, right? But if we have 10,000 people all have houses and buy insurance, pay the insurance company a small amount to bear the risk of the house burning down, that is easier for me to tolerate, right? I would only bear the risk of one, let's suppose one of the 10,000 people in the insurance company's house burned down. Well, I only have to pay the cost of 1/10,000th of the loss. It's easier for the people in the risk pool to bear that loss rather than for one person to bear the entire risk by herself, right? Now, what happens there is the people whose house doesn't burn down end up paying for the house that does burn down. What we say in this context is that everyone in the pool of insurance, people who get insurance, share risks and costs. This tends to reduce risk. It's like diversifying. It's diversifying risk away from one person towards a whole bunch of people, right? Now, This works for insurance companies because it's unlikely that all the houses from all 10,000 people will burn down in 1 year. And so if the insurance company charges the right amount, they will make a profit from the fees that they collect from these people in the usual case. But there are weird things that could happen. We're seeing it now with coronavirus, but we also see it with natural disasters when not there is the case where 10,000 houses burn down or get um, destroyed by a tornado or a hurricane, right? So that in that case, the insurance company is in a little bit of trouble, and sometimes the government has to come in and fix things, to step in and bail them out, right? So this is a picture of what happened in Long Island after Hurricane Sandy. Big disaster, huge loss for a small concentrated area. And insurance companies, because they may have insured all those houses, had a big loss. So it doesn't always work, right? When we have a catastrophic event like a hurricane or a tornado, but in the usual case with me driving or insuring my house against being burned down, it will work just fine. Now, this is just something I came across along the way, how people should respond to risk. This is kind of a little handy thumbnail or rule of thumb about what we should do. So we have this little table here. On the top, we see that this is the size of the loss that you're exposed to, either a small loss or a big loss. On the left column, we see how probable the loss might be. What is the risk? Is a low risk, meaning it's unlikely to happen, or a high risk, high probability that it is likely to happen. So we look at any of the intersection of these cells. So a small loss that is low in probability. Well, if that's the case, we probably wouldn't do anything. So for example, let's suppose that I'm worried about when I pull my wallet out, I'll drop a $5 bill on the ground and I'll lose $5. That's a that is a low probability because I'm careful about that, but it's also not much of a loss if I lose my $5. I am not going to do anything. If I lose the $5, I lose the $5. Right? If I continue to worry about or be exposed to a loss that is a low in probability, right? It's not likely to happen, but if it does happen, I would be out a lot of money. The size of my loss is big. That's the situation where you should get insurance, right? It's very unlikely that my house will burn down, but if it does, I'm out hundreds of thousands of dollars, a big loss. That is the perfect situation for insurance because I am transferring the very small risk of my house burning down to an insurance company that will pay if it does. Right. Looking at another one, so if the size of a loss is small, but the risk of loss is high, so it's likely that you'll lose money or something bad will happen to you in this case. But it's if you something bad does happen to you, right? If the loss occurs, it's not going to cost you a lot of money. Well, you could get insurance, you can not get insurance. Typically, people will not do that. Think of buying a lottery ticket. You go and play scratch off, right? The odds of you winning are low, but if you lose, which you likely will lose, it won't cost you that much. A dollar or two or $5, whatever scratch offs cost. Right. So in that case, you probably would not get insurance, right? If you could even, an insurance company would even sell you anything, right? So that's a self-insurance situation as well. Now, this is the big one, right? So we have a situation where a loss is probable. It's likely that this will happen, but also when it does, you're going to lose a lot of money. It will be a huge damage. Well, that's the case where you just don't do it, right? Avoid those situations. If you're going to jump out of an airplane and if something goes wrong, you're going to die. Well, if you jump out of an airplane and your parachute doesn't work well, meaning the probability of loss is high, then don't jump out of airplanes, right? So this gives you a little bit of an indication of how people should respond to different situations, depending on both the size of the loss and the probability of the loss itself. All right. So that's it for insurance. Next and last set of slides for risk aversion relates to how insurance changes people's behavior. Be back at you soon.